This is a misunderstanding. I need to explain something important.
The gold of the police captain's badge lay cool against the scarred oak desk. For 20 years, that shield had been Captain Alana Hayes' identity, her armor, and her burden. Now, on a rare day off, she simply needed it to be invisible. She tucked the badge and her service weapon into a locked drawer. Just for today, she wanted the weight of expectation lifted. She wanted to walk without being watched. Alana drove toward Atherton's, the city's landmark of luxury, tucked away in a district she was only assigned to temporarily. The store was a fortress of white marble and gleaming brass, a silent declaration that only certain people belonged inside. It was miles away, both geographically and spiritually, from the vibrant, chaotic streets she usually patrolled. Stepping inside felt like crossing into another world. The air was scented with expensive perfume, and soft jazz muffled the anxieties of the city. Alana allowed herself a moment of quiet relief. She was just a woman shopping, nothing more. She drifted toward the designer accessories, her hand tracing the smooth silk of a cashmere shawl. It was beautiful, a perfect indulgence. As she examined it, she felt the prickle of scrutiny. Across the polished floor, near the service desk, a young man in a dark suit, a loss prevention officer, or LPO, was watching her. His stare was intense, focused entirely on her hands and her movements. "It's just security protocol," she told herself, trying to dismiss the knot tightening in her stomach. "He's just doing his job. I'm overthinking this." But the stare didn't waver. It was cold, judgmental, and utterly unwavering. Alana chose the shawl. She folded it precisely, slipping it into the personal shopping tote she had brought with her, a habit born of neatness. She carried the shawl to the cashier, paid with her card, and waited patiently for the receipt. The transaction was clean, documented. She even checked the receipt twice, a flash of professional thoroughness she couldn't suppress. She pushed through the glass doors, the heavy scent of perfume giving way to the crisp autumn air. The tension eased from her shoulders. She had made it. She was free. Then a sudden jarring force slammed into her. A hand clamped down on her shoulder with unnecessary, alarming strength. Before she could react, before she could even utter a word, she was spun around, facing the LPO, Kevin, who had tracked her across the store. His eyes were cold chips of ice. "I saw you pocket that," he hissed. "Don't make a scene." "I saw you pocket that." "Don't make a scene." The LPO's voice was a low snarl, but it carried enough weight to stop Alana cold. Her first instinct, honed by 2 decades of training, was to reach for the cuffs on her hip, to assert the control her rank demanded. But she was Alana Hayes, the shopper, not Captain Hayes, the authority. She forced her tone level, her voice almost a whisper. "Excuse me? I paid for this." She held up the delicate strip of paper. The receipt, her only defense. The LPO, Kevin, didn't even glance at it. He raised his voice, loud enough for the gathering crowd by the entrance to hear. "She's refusing to cooperate. We have a shoplifter here who tried to walk out with stolen merchandise." The sheer, baseless humiliation was a physical blow, heavier than the hand that had gripped her shoulder moments before. 20 years of spotless service, a badge earned through blood and sweat, all vanishing under the cold, self-righteous gaze of a low-level security guard. A woman in the growing circle of onlookers leaned toward her husband and whispered, "They all look alike. Better check her bag." The whisper hit Alana like a shot of ice. Her professional control fractured. She felt a surge of hot, desperate anger that she struggled to contain. She was being erased, reduced to a single, ugly stereotype. Kevin didn't wait for her next move. He began guiding her, not gently, toward the rear of the store. His fingers dug into her arm with unnecessary force, confirming his intent. This wasn't about verifying a purchase. It was about asserting a malicious authority. "Let go of me," Alana commanded, but the noise of the store swallowed her voice. He forced her into a cramped, windowless room marked Loss Prevention, slamming the door behind them. The air immediately felt stale and suffocating. This was the end of negotiation. To save her dignity, she had to deploy the truth, the one thing she never used to pull rank in civilian life. She reached into her handbag, past her keys and wallet, toward the leather case. "You need to stop this," she said, her voice trembling slightly with effort. "You need to see this now." She found the case. She slid the leather open, the gold shield catching the weak fluorescent light. This would end it. This single piece of metal would reverse everything. But before Kevin could register the shape of the gold badge, before Alana could speak the words, "Police Captain," he lunged. He grabbed the entire purse, yanking it from her grasp. He upended the bag onto the cheap laminate desk with a shocking crash. Keys, lipstick, receipts, and the sealed leather ID case scattered across the gray surface. Kevin didn't look at the badge. His eyes were fixed only on the cashmere shawl that had fallen out. He had blocked her final, definitive move. The ultimate truth was still unseen, the cold, sickening click of a pair of handcuffs opening echoed in the small room. The sound of the spilled badge case was immediately followed by the terrifying, familiar click of handcuffs opening. The sound of her own defeat, Alana finally broke. Her voice, usually measured and controlled, rose to a raw, desperate shout. "Stop! I am Captain Alana Hayes. That is my identification. Check it now." The LPO, Kevin, ignored her entirely. He was already speaking into his radio, his tone a sickening blend of authority and panic. "I need 911. Reporting an uncooperative, verbally aggressive shoplifter. Claims she's someone important. Get units here now." He deliberately omitted the word captain. He was constructing the narrative. Brick by brick, against her, Alana stood frozen, every fiber of her being screaming for her to fight, to wrestle her purse back, to flash the badge that was her truth. But that would only confirm his lie. That would turn a humiliating injustice into an assault on an officer, even if she was the officer. She was trapped by the very discipline she had spent a lifetime acquiring. Moments later, the door burst open. Two uniformed officers from her own department, Ben Carter and Maria Sanchez, rushed in. They were young, barely out of the academy, and their faces were tight with nervousness. They immediately deferred to the LPO, the supposed victim. Alana made one final pleading attempt, speaking slowly, projecting the authority that resided in her bones, not her clothes. "Officers, I am off-duty Captain Hayes. Please check my name in the database before you proceed. It will take 30 seconds. Officer Carter avoided her gaze. He seemed intimidated by the upscale store's setting and the LPO's aggressive confidence. He spoke the official words that felt like a death sentence. "Ma'am, we just need to confirm your identity at the precinct. If you cooperate, this will go smoothly." He reached for her wrists. The moment the cold steel of the handcuffs clicked shut around her wrists, a shudder ran through Alana that had nothing to do with the temperature. It was the sound of her career, her identity, and her trust in the system shattering. The betrayal was complete. She had been cuffed by her own department, by officers who chose to believe a biased report over the word of the uniform they shared. They led her, handcuffed, past the front of the store and the gawking, judgmental crowd. Her eyes, filled with numb despair, swept across the exit. And then she saw it. In the entryway above the marble water fountain, a small news monitor was airing a local report. The screen flashed a high-resolution photograph of Alana Hayes, sharp in her full uniform, smiling. The bold ticker tape beneath the image read, "Police Captain of the Year dinner scheduled for Friday." The image of her own face, radiant and praised on the screen, burned into Alana's vision. Her name, Captain Alana Hayes, the celebrated officer, was broadcast moments before she was dragged past in shame. It was a vicious twist of irony that snapped Officer Carter out of his procedure-bound trance. He saw the TV. He saw the headline. And He froze. A flicker of primal panic crossed LPO Kevin's smug face, quickly followed by a sickening wave of comprehension. The shoplifter wasn't just claiming to be someone important. She was the high-ranking official they were supposed to be celebrating. The small procession halted abruptly in the chill of the parking lot. Officer Carter's hands fumbled desperately with the handcuff key, his youthful nervousness replaced by abject fear. The steel bindings sprang open. Alana rubbed her raw wrists, the circulation rushing back, but the feeling of profound violation remained. The handcuffs were gone, but the damage was done. They had treated her like a criminal. She refused to simply walk away and let them breathe a sigh of relief. She straightened her civilian clothes, and the captain's authority, previously subdued, surged forward. Cold and absolute, Officer Carter. Officer Sanchez. Her voice was low, cutting through the parking lot noise like glass. You are both relieved of duty pending internal review. Call your superior now. Tell them Captain Hayes is waiting for them. The two young officers paled, their careers flashing before their eyes. The LPO, Kevin, stammered forward, his confidence shredded. Captain, I'm so sorry. It was a mistake. An unsubstantiated tip. I didn't see the ID. Alana didn't shout. She merely stopped him with a look. Her eyes were filled with the raw emotion of betrayal. This wasn't a mistake, Mr. Jones. This was a choice. A choice based on what you saw, not what you knew. Within 15 minutes, Lieutenant Miller, their precinct superior, arrived. He was frantic, his apology a rushed torrent of damage control. He ignored Alana's pain and focused only on the department's immediate public relations disaster. He confirmed her identity, practically bowing in submission. He pulled her aside, speaking urgently into her ear. Alana, for the good of the department, we have to keep this quiet. I'll fire the LPO immediately. We'll issue a statement about a misunderstanding. Please, let us handle the cleanup internally. Alana looked away from his pleading eyes, remembering the whispered phrase from the shopper. They all look alike. She remembered the cold steel biting into her skin. Should she take the way out, protect her career, and let the system quietly close ranks? Or was this incident too painful, too necessary to hide? Alana looked at Lieutenant Miller, whose face was a mask of pleading anxiety. He was asking her to choose comfort over conviction. The question of whether she would protect the badge or pursue justice hung heavy in the air. Her answer was quiet and absolute. No, Lieutenant. We're going to use this. I want the full report on that LPO, Kevin Jones, and I want the files of every officer involved. We are not cleaning this up. We are opening it up. Miller's jaw dropped, but he didn't argue. Captain Hayes had authority. She was simply choosing to use it against the department's interests. Alana returned to her own precinct, the building where she commanded respect. Yet, as she walked past the familiar desks, the stares of her subordinates felt different, apprehensive, even pitying. She felt like a stranger in her own house. The uniform she wore now was invisible, but the humiliation was not. She retreated to her office. For the next 24 hours, fueled by weak coffee and cold fury, she became an investigator once more. She was not seeking revenge. She was seeking understanding, the root cause of the baseless arrogance she had faced. She downloaded the audio of the 911 call and the body camera footage. She scrutinized Kevin Jones's personnel file, demanding every internal memo and complaint. Then, she found it. Tucked into the depth of the file was a supervisor's warning. It flagged Kevin Jones for a disproportionate number of detentions based on subjective observation. He had an unusually high rate of reported shoplifting arrests involving people of color, all of which had been dropped later due to insufficient evidence. The unsubstantiated tip, he mentioned, was a lie. This was a pattern. It was systemic racial profiling dressed up as security. The coldness Alana had felt was righteous anger. Cher watched Officer Carter's body cam. In the cramped security room, right before the cuffs went on, there was a fractional second of hesitation. Carter's eyes darted down to the scattered ID case, then back up to the LPO, who was whispering aggressively in his ear. Carter hadn't acted out of malice, but from fear and ignorance, choosing to trust the assumed authority of the upscale store over the word of the black woman standing before him. The complexity of the betrayal was crushing. Late that night, Alana called Marcus, her friend and a civil rights attorney. She sent him the LPO's damning file. The phone rang immediately. Marcus's voice was tight with gravity. "Alana, this is much bigger than a single store. This LPO has been flagged in connection with similar incidents at other high-end businesses. This isn't one bad apple. This is a system." The truth had just escalated into a full-blown conspiracy. The phone call came before dawn. Marcus, the lawyer, sounded tired but excited. "They offered me a 6-figure settlement to drop the entire thing, Captain. They're terrified. Atherton's wants this buried by lunch." Alana didn't hesitate. She had spent the night staring at the files, seeing the long line of others who had been unjustly humiliated by Kevin Jones. "Tell them no, Marcus. We don't want their money. We want the system fixed." Her goal was not wealth, but accountability. She changed into her full, impeccably pressed captain's uniform. This time, she would wear the armor, and it would be used as a weapon of truth. An hour later, Alana stood before a wall of microphones at an unscheduled press conference. The room was tense, thick with the scent of fear and anticipation from the department officials forced to stand behind her. She did not read a statement. She simply narrated the truth. She spoke of the beautiful shawl, the cold, accusatory stare, and the feeling of 2 decades of service being negated by a whispered accusation. She described the sickening click of the handcuffs applied by her own officers. Then she revealed the pattern in Kevin Jones's file, the history of baseless profiling. The reaction was immediate and explosive. By noon, Atherton's stock had plummeted. The 2 young officers were formally suspended. The LPO, Kevin, vanished, going into hiding from both the public outrage and the impending legal action. The pressure on Alana was immense. Themayor's chief of staff called her directly, his voice tight with veiled threats. "Captain, you are jeopardizing public order. You have to stop. We need stability, not this chaos." The police commissioner demanded a meeting, arguing that she was destroying the fragile relationship between law enforcement and big business. Her career, once unassailable, was suddenly balanced on a knife's edge. But then, after the conference, a young officer, a woman of color fresh out of the academy, approached Alana. Her eyes were bright with unshed tears. She didn't offer praise or pity. She simply said, "Thank you, Captain. We need this." That small, raw validation meant more than any medal or promotion. It solidified her resolve. She was fighting for all of them. Just as the sun began to set, a final, shocking update broke across the wire. The LPO, Kevin Jones, who had run from the charge of racial profiling, had turned himself in to the authorities. But not for the profiling. He had confessed to something far darker. He had been using the false arrests and the ensuing chaos to cover up his own large-scale internal theft operation, working with a network of employees to loot the store for months. His malice was not just based on bias. It was a cynical, criminal scheme. The villain was finally unmasked, revealed to be far worse than anyone had suspected. The next morning, the news played the mugshot of the disgraced LPO, Kevin Jones. His face, stripped of its arrogant composure, was now just another photo on the police blotter, an image of a convicted thief. The contrast with Alana's celebratory picture from days before was definitive. The true criminal was exposed. Alana asked for a private meeting with Officer Carter. He looked physically devastated, his young career already in ruins. "I saw the case, Captain," Carter confessed, his voice barely a whisper. "But Jones whispered that you were a sophisticated thief, that the badge was fake, a prop to get out of trouble. I panicked. I believed the story that seemed easiest, the one I expected. Alana felt a surge of sadness, not forgiveness. The badge is just metal, Officer Carter. The gun is just a tool. Your authority isn't in the gun. It's in the courage to check your own assumptions. You chose the easy story over the hard truth, and that choice has consequences. She did not offer him a lifeline, only a painful lesson. The legal fallout was swift. Alana, working with Marcus, refused any personal payout. Instead, the settlement money from Atherton's was used to fund a mandatory, city-wide training program for every police officer and every major retailer's security staff. The program was simple: recognize your implicit bias or lose your job. It was systemic justice, not simple revenge. Weeks later, Captain Alana Hayes stood on stage at the Police Captain of the Year dinner. The room was silent, every eye fixed on her. This was the moment she was supposed to celebrate her achievements, but she used the platform to deliver a message. She lifted her hands, showing the faint, silver scars where the handcuffs had bitten her wrists. The cold steel of those cuffs taught me more than 20 years on the force ever did, she said, her voice resonant. It taught me that prejudice is the most dangerous weapon of all, because it's invisible. It taught me that my badge, my rank, none of it protects me from being reduced to a stereotype. She paused, looking out over the faces of her peers. The true job of a police officer isn't to wield power. It is to protect the dignity of the powerless. We must never let the uniform we wear blind us to the humanity of the person we see. The humiliation had become her most powerful tool. The betrayal had led to true change. Her final gaze was direct, speaking to the camera, to everyone watching. Your worth is not up for debate. Do not let invisible bias define you or steal your hope. Find your voice and use it to challenge the easy, comfortable lies. If Captain Hayes' fight for dignity resonated with you, hit the like button. Subscribe to join our community and hear more stories where resilience defeats injustice. Share this video, because the only way to beat the invisible assumptions is to bring them into the light.